All right. We're back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith on this fine Friday. Carter, how we doing?
Good, man. It's been a good week. Been a hectic week, but it's been a good one, man. Excited. Really just got out today, got some work done, got some errands run, and then picked up my kids after school and took them home and took them outside for a bit. It was a little chilly here in Columbus, but other than that, it was good. Then had some dinner after trick or treat last night. They wanted to have candy for dinner. We did not do that, but they did have some candy afterwards. But other than that, man, a great week. Excited for the weekend. A lot of great football to consume. A lot of stuff to do. First weekend without soccer, so no kids soccer games this weekend. Get to wake up tomorrow morning at whatever time the kids wake up. Which I'll tell you what, man. During the week, so I have them 50% of the time during the week overnight. So I school nights will go to bed at a normal time. Weekends they go to bed about the same time, maybe a little later. But it never fails, man. On weekdays in the morning, like 7:30, when they need to be getting up, getting ready for school, they are passed out, and I have to go wake them up, and they don't want to wake up. But then Saturday morning rolls around, the motherfuckers will be up at 6:30 in the morning, like dad, and I'm like, can we flip flop this? Like, just never fails, man. But other than that, really good week, man.
My week has been pretty good, man. Can't complain. Did a little of the trick or treating. I've been watching some of the midweek football. My son's been kind of sickish, not feeling the greatest, so everything's been kind of just an even keel week,
Yeah,
as Eddie Vedder said, an even flow.
It's that time of year, man. Especially kids. What is he? He's in school, right?
Yeah, he's in the last year of preschool, so
Okay, yeah. So he goes to school at least a little bit, each day or whatever. And once they get
yeah.
in school, man, it's like, and you only have the one, so it's not as bad. But you get two of them in school or three of them in school, and all of a sudden one of them gets sick, then they're all sick, then one of them gets over it, the other one's still sick, then the other one gets sick again. It's just this time of year it's a nonstop cycle. So I feel you on that. Luckily, we haven't been too bad yet, so I'm sure it's coming though. I said that, so next week they'll all be sick, and I'll be dealing with that.
And then that's when you get sick. So
Yeah, and you're not allowed to get sick.
yeah, yep, yep. So transitioning into tonight.
Yeah, we got a lot of football on tonight, a lot of good games tomorrow, a lot to go over, a lot to break down. We have obviously the big game, just to talk, obviously the graphic and headline. The big game this weekend, Ohio State, Penn State, man. I mean, initial feelings, how do you feel about it?
Rolling through Ohio State, Penn State, um, going up to Happy Valley, with all of this going on, we look at the numbers.
Yeah.
There's some.
Yeah, we'll obviously dive into the numbers later in the show, but yeah, it's I mean, Happy Valley, man, that State College, PA, it's a wonderful, wonderful environment for college football. But initial, just what do you think that the main difference is going to be in the game?
Well, I also think it helps that it's a day game. It's not a night game.
Which is a travesty, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Fox. Thanks, NCAA, Fox.
Yeah.
I just believe that there's so much riding on this game that I feel like on both sides there's so much nervous tension, and then, after watching your brother today at the live show that I haven't caught in a while, Zach, throws it out there that, it sounds like Ryan Day's agent shopping him that's what a good agent does.
Yeah, that's why. Hey, Listen, if I had an agent, I'd want him to be shopping me all the time. What do you mean? First of all, you never know what's going to happen. You never know. I'll be honest with you. Luke Fickell thought he was getting a head coaching job after his year as interim head coach. And all of a sudden, Urban Meyer tells Ohio State he's interested, and Luke's hanging out to dry. So you never know what's going to happen. There's an opportunity that something happens. Ryan needs to know what his market is outside of that. I don't think it's anything to worry about. He's not leaving Ohio State unless things go real south, and I'm talking lose to Penn State, lose to Indiana, lose to Michigan. I don't think he leaves on his own accord because there's 40 million reasons why he wouldn't leave. But he could get fired. That's a possibility.
It would have to go really, really bad in order for that to happen.
I think the three things I just said are the three things that would have to happen for that to happen.
So you're saying basically miss the playoffs, and you're
for sure miss the playoffs, and you're pretty much out. I think because you look at it, they spent $20 million on this roster allegedly. I think that number could be factual. I have no idea. I've seen a lot of estimates for a lot of different schools, anywhere from 15 to 20 for Ohio State. I think that's maybe accurate. I have a former player that I know that's on record telling me the lowest paid player on the team is making $300K this year. Now, I think he means the lowest paid player that plays. I don't think he means lowest paid player because there's not some freshman preferred walk-on making $300K or anything like that.
Right.
But the people that are acting the game, I think he means is lowest paid is $300K. Which is about half of the NFL league minimum. So they're making almost NFL money at no matter who you are. So between money, the talent, the expectations, and the lack of success over the past 3 years specifically against Michigan, but then also they haven't won the Big Ten since 2020, and a lot of people don't give them credit for 2020.
Well, it just depends upon how you look at 2020. 2020 is a polarizing year for some people. I don't think that we've reached the full potential. A lot of people want to say that, Ryan Day has got a lot of on-the-job training, which he has. One of the issues that I have is that you can fire every assistant you get, but at the end of the day, Ryan needs to look at the mirror, and I'm not calling for the job, his job per se. I think Ryan Day does an outstanding job, but the issue is that you can't cast the blame on Jim Knowles or Larry Johnson or Justin Frye. You're just as much as you're the CEO. You are the face of it. You're not calling plays. So you should be helping with recruiting, sitting in meetings and doing other things because you got out recruited and for everything that the Sanders kid wanted. Was it outlandish? Yes.
Yeah.
And Tennessee, best of luck to you. I don't think that.
Yeah. There's not an offensive line in the world that's worth that, just so you know.
No, as far as a kid that has not played one snap of college football. Now, if you come here and you're
still not worth it.
You're Orlando Pace.
You better be fucking Orlando Pace. Exactly. That's the only name you can think of. Joe Alt, maybe. Joe Thomas, maybe. But
here's the problem. Whenever you commit these big deals to these kids in recruiting and they come here and they're not very good or they don't pan out, you think the fans are bad now?
Uh-oh. We lost video on you, Duke.
Okay. But it says,
yeah, go ahead. Finish your thought, and then I'll talk while you fix it.
It's one of those that it's one of those that, you'd think that you've got everything all figured out, and for some reason they just they can't get.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, yeah, anyways, just to go through that, we'll touch more on Justin Frye. Obviously, he's on the graphic, so we'll touch on him here in a little bit. But yeah, I think Ryan Day, the buck stops with him. Of the guys you mentioned specifically, Justin Frye, Larry Knoll, or Jim Knowles, Larry Johnson. Of those three guys, outside of Larry Johnson, both the other two are Ryan Day hires. So you can no longer blame the coaches. You're responsible for them. Larry Johnson was a holdover from Urban staff. He's been here for a long time, but outside of that, I mean, it is what it is. But I think the buck stops with Ryan at this point, and he has to understand that, and I think he does. All right, we got you back, I think, Duke. Yep, I can see it. Your mic working? Oh, having a little technical issue here. Let's see. Let me try to add you to the stage, Duke. You there? Can you hear me? I don't know what's going on here. All right. No, he's. But anyways, we'll get into Ohio State, Penn State stuff here in a little bit. Obviously, that's the biggest game of the weekend. A couple other, there's a lot of big games going on right now. Or not right now, but going on this weekend. But we'll talk a little bit about what's going on tonight. We got 3 games tonight. We got Georgia State and UConn. They're in the second quarter right now. UConn leading that 10-7. Not a real intriguing game. UConn's an interesting program, though. They aren't terrible. And I believe they're one of the few independents still out there, them, Notre Dame, and a couple others. And then you got South Florida, who is 3-4, taking on 2-5 Florida Atlantic. And that one just kicked. Well, it's almost the end of the first quarter now, and it's still tied 0-0. We got you back.
Yeah, for some reason, it whenever it boots you out like that, it takes your audio with it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go into the setting, but where was I at? The Ryan Day, taking responsibility for everything. And what I mean by that is I think that if you want to be one of the highest paid coaches in college football, this is what comes with it. Is the fan base nuts? Yes. But I don't think that, people he should have a cop sitting out in front of his house.
Well, no, there's that's that is definitely not. So there's, and that was talked about. I've heard a lot of people talk about it as far as like, well, when you're paid the big bucks, like that's what happens. And it's like, okay, I agree. When you're paid $10 million a year, you're one of the highest paid coaches in the game. 100% criticism follows, and it should. You should be held to a different standard than every other coach that's not paid as high as you. And we got Richie joining us here. Let me throw him in, and then I'll finish our thought here. There we go. Let me add him to the stage here.
What up, boys? Happy Friday.
There he is. How's it going, Rich?
Oh, it's going great, man. PGF and Keen is all I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, what I was saying, so like I said, as one of the highest paid coaches, criticism should follow that. That's expected. However, I think everybody can agree that having to have police officers sit outside your house to protect your family because of perceived threats because you lost by 1 point to Oregon on the road, the number one team in the country, taking it a little far. I don't think anybody, I don't care how much you pay me, if my kids and my family are in danger because even if I failed at my job, my kids and family should never be put in danger. That's not part of the job. Now, you can talk about my poor job that I've done. You can talk about firing me. You can talk about all that stuff. And I deserve it. I make $10 million a year. I 100% deserve that. But there's obviously a line that shouldn't be crossed, and Ohio State fans aren't the only ones that cross. I don't want to make it seem like I'm singling out Ohio State fans specifically, because I've seen this happen across the country at big programs. But, at the end of the day, at the same time, dude, you're paid $10 million a year. You're 1-8 against top 5 programs.
Yeah.
Like it's time to pay off on what you're being paid. And the same goes for Jim Knowles, who is, I believe,
he's one of the highest paid coordinators.
What is he? Like the number 2 paid?
Two or three.
He might be tied for. Yeah, let me see here. I have Wink Martindale's 2. Wink Martindale's 2. God, what a waste of money that is. He's tied for 5th. So Al Golden and him are both paid $2 million a year, right? And the same goes for Jim Knowles. You're making $2 million a year. You got to put up your defense in top matchups, big games, has given up almost 2,000 yards in 5 games and 150 points. That's not good if you're paid $2 million a year to stop the other team. I don't care if you stop Western Michigan and Akron. Go stop Oregon and Penn State and Michigan. Yeah, you're supposed to. But we pay $2 million a year to stop the Michigans, the Penn States, the Oregons, the Georgias. That's what you're paid the money for. There's a famous quote, I think it's from Mad Men, where everybody's they're complaining about their job, and the guy just looks and goes, dude, that's what the money's for. I don't care that you're tired. I don't care about any of that. That's what the money's for. That's why you make as much as you do. So go out there and stop them. And like I said, that's just my opinion on that. I don't want to get too much into Ohio State yet before we dive into everything else. But I mean, that we'll get into the nitty gritty as we break down the game and everything. But yeah, as far as the coaching staff and everything, and we'll talk about the offensive line as well, because that is a question mark, and there is somebody that is feeling the heat right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I would want to add to, with where we're going with the Ryan Day stuff is that, I don't know if we're at the line of shit or get off the pot with him per se just yet.
Getting damn close.
Nebraska was rough. The Michigan stuff, I don't know. Are the outcomes of that game of those games different? Maybe 21-22, but I don't know. I think you got to give them 23 because you had Honda McCord throwing the ball. There was a lot of circumstances around that team. You had, Honda McCord's dad meddling, and for all intents and purposes, you have stuff like that mounted, and after a while, shit stacks up, and you can only take so much, and and this is criticism. The Buckeye fans can roast me alive, but their savior, Marvin Harrison Jr., the last effort on the last play of his Ohio State career, that's the effort he gave on that slant. Yeah. That's and the motherfucker didn't block either. I mean, right. You can go watch 2-3 years of film.
I will say, to be fair, there wasn't a receiver on the team that blocked.
Right. They were not
So-
being made, I don't know if
Yeah.
it was a being made thing or
Yeah, but at the end of the day, 21 and 22, I can see how you give them a little bit of an asterisk for that because of the Connor Stallion shit. I mean, you still got beat on the field. I don't put as much weight into that as some Buckeye fans do, but I get it. You can have an excuse for that. 23, you lost fair and square.
yeah.
And
Right.
you lost because of decisions made by Ryan Day. Okay. The reason Honda McCord was your quarterback was because you chose him over JJ McCarthy, because you chose to travel with a walk-on instead of Quinn Ewers. And so Quinn Ewers left. And I mean, everything was a result of actions that Ryan Day did. So Honda McCord is not an excuse. Ryan Day is supposed to be a quarterback guy. And if you didn't have a quarterback good enough to beat Michigan, well, then you messed up. And and it wasn't just Honda McCord that lost that game. Obviously, there was plenty of other opportunities defensively to make stops. They didn't. Plenty of opportunities on offense to make different plays. They didn't. But 23 is squarely on Ryan's shoulders. And so that's just the way that goes. And that's why you can get away with saying 21-22. Okay, whatever. But last year you lost fair and square.
Yeah, no excuse.
Yeah, so now you got to go out there and you got to rectify that this year. And he started out with a really easy schedule, looked good, lost a tough game to Oregon. I think everybody in Buckeye Nation was fine with that. I mean, they were upset they lost the game, but nobody was calling for his job. Then you go out against Nebraska, and an egg is offensively, which is not something they're used to doing at Ohio State.
Off a bye week too, and
Yeah.
then it doesn't help that Indiana ran through their ass like shit through a horn.
Well, the other thing I'll tell you is, guys, you have to realize that this shit happens to all the programs.
Right.
Georgia beat Kentucky by 1 point. Okay. South Carolina dominated Kentucky by like 30. And then South Carolina turned around and played a bunch of people really close. Like, it happens. Just because Kentucky, it happens. I'm not putting too much into that Nebraska game.
Right. Do you guys think that they might have looked ahead towards this week with their lack of effort
100%.
from
Yeah.
last week? That's what I think.
100%.
I mean, that's they weren't executing correctly. They weren't making tackles the way they're supposed to. I just think they were just going through the motions, trying to get their eyes towards Happy Valley come tomorrow.
Also, too, Rich, whenever you're looking at the majority of what's going on with the schedule and everything, it's hard to get up for Nebraska. It's a noon game. It's a sleepy game. I'm sure the horseshoe was quiet until it needed to get loud. I believe I had talked to Barton and he was there and he's like, they got loud when they needed to, but for the most part, it was a snooze fest. And you got a sleepy noon game against a sneakily hard-nosed team. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Nebraska, but they came in there and they gave Ohio State everything they could handle for 4 quarters. And
I said they're going to give them their very best shot, and sure as hell they did. They gave them their very best shot.
And for the Buckeye fans that want to bitch about the officiating, it is tenfold the other way, because there was a couple other edits that I seen out there of tons of holds that they didn't call, a whole bunch of no calls. So, I mean, in football, you could call holding on every play if you really want.
If you really want to. The game would take 5 hours, but the refs are like, no, we're not going to. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So, did the offensive line play well? No, not in my opinion. And and it's just a matter of how well did you recruit? 41 through 60 is what it's going to come down to. And Donovan Jackson going out there to tackle, I think that's your best shot at solidifying it. but I just, you can't just get it. Rome wasn't built in a day. It
Right.
just on my closing thoughts on that. Rome
This
wasn't
isn't
built in a day.
this isn't your dynasty on college football 25, ladies and gentlemen. I'll end with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And like I said, we'll jump into kind of breaking down the Ohio State Penn State game here in a little bit. I'm going to go through some of the other games on Saturday. Boise State, San Diego State kicked off. It should be a fun there. I believe Boise State's favored by, I don't remember, 7.5 or something like that at least. But let's go to some games Saturday and talk about some of the big ones. Obviously, Penn State, Ohio State's the biggest one, kicking off at noon. We'll jump into that in a little bit. But you got Ole Miss facing Arkansas in Arkansas. You got Ole Miss favored by 7.5. Really a big game for Ole Miss. They're 6-2 now. Got 2 losses in the SEC after losing to what they lost to LSU last week, and really their hopes and dreams live and die by this week. And then obviously they got bigger games later. But I think this one's an interesting one. Duke, what are your thoughts on this game?
Seeing how I have a little bit of a connection at Ole Miss, I haven't really exercised that this week. I've kind of avoided asking questions about that whole situation down there, because on the Lane Kiffin side of it, it's not going to get weird, but you're going to have – he brought in 30 kids in the portal, and that is something that is ever changing, is the transfer portal. And I believe that this Ole Miss is pretty much you're on a 7-day contract. Everybody down there is on a 7-day contract with Ole Miss, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. Yeah. Could I see Ole Miss? If you told me Ole Miss lost this game to 35-21, I wouldn't be shocked. Now, does Arkansas struggle on offense? Yes. Mm-hmm. Is Ole Miss good on defense? Yes, but Ole Miss struggles up front. They can't run the ball. They're one-dimensional. You leave Jackson Dart hanging out in the pocket, it could be a long day. They want the Rebs to win? Yeah, of course. But would it shock me if the Hogs, you call the Hogs and the Hogs ended up pulling it off? Because Sam Pittman's coaching for everything he's got down there. He's giving it everything he's got, because it's either everything. It's just you could. He's giving it everything he's got down there. And call the Hogs, man.
Yeah, I agree. That's it. Richie got the reference.
Oh man, that was good, man.
Everything you got. I mean, everything. Bobby Petrino. You got Bobby Petrino nipping at your heels down there. I just,
Richie, what movie is that?
Huh? No, I thought you were quoting Herbs.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a movie that they say that, but that is an urban thing.
Isn't that I Love You Man, the guy in the gym?
It's with Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
It's I Love You Man. Everything you got.
So
that's that's a great movie too.
Okay.
I don't want to get off topic. Yeah.
But that's my thoughts on the Hogs and Ole Miss, and we're coming up right before we run through the entire slate. Let me give the show a little bit of a reset here. If you're watching out there on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and get involved with the chat. We're live show, predominantly Monday through Friday, and then during football season we go live on Saturday. But if you can hit the like and subscribe button and help us grow this show, and it helps us in every way you possibly can by just hitting the like and subscribe button, turning on the bell notifications. Or if you don't want the bell notifications turned on, we'll never know if they're on or off. But also, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you want to do a playback and you don't always want to use YouTube, but we're on those platforms as well. So,
yep. And I do have an update on that. I got an email today, and that should be fixed by Monday. But they said within 24 to 48 hours, but I assume they don't mean the weekend. So the stream connection for some reason got broken. I had to go through a whole process, but it'll be fixed. Everything will be uploaded by Monday on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all that jazz. But
yeah.
Definitely go out and like and subscribe. But outside of Ole Miss, Arkansas, we got other good ones. Let's see here.
We got Duke, Miami, the Manny Diaz Revenge Bowl.
Is that a trap game for Duke or for Miami?
Could be. They're favored by 20 points.
The Canes, baby. The Canes.
Miami's 20-point favorite in that.
I don't think that one's going to be that close. I mean, I hope I say that, and then who knows? Miami will mess it up, but
yeah, they'll lose on a botch snap,
yeah. But no, I think one of the most interesting games. This one's not but in Michigan, I think that one's interesting. I think Oregon's going to absolutely boat race them.
They're going to do unspeakable things to them.
Yeah, but it'll be. And Michigan has a little bit of blood in the water right now. They just lost. Myself, I just decommitted from Michigan.
That's right.
4-star quarterback, Gatorade Player of the Year out of Florida, Carter Smith. Decommitted from Michigan this week. Michigan fans, of course, spinning it of, he doesn't want to compete with Bryce Underwood. You don't have Bryce Underwood, so I don't know if that was why, but we can go with that narrative.
Don't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
What do you think he'll commit to?
I haven't
any rumors on that.
Yeah, I haven't read too much into it or looked into it. Duke might know more than I on that.
Which kid?
Carter Smith.
Carter Smith.
Yeah. He's going to visit Wisconsin this weekend, I guess, or November 9th, I believe.
That's so weird. I mean, I know Florida kids are more likely to leave the South than a lot of those other Southern states, but Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Florida over Jeremiah Smith. He's a 4-star, potentially going to be a 5-star kid after this year. For him to be looking at Michigan, Wisconsin, those aren't programs that typically get those kids. So that tells me there might be something. Either he's not being recruited heavily by those Southern schools, or maybe he just wants to go north. I don't know.
Well, it's just, there's a lot of mitigating factors that go into it. So, we'll see where he ends up.
But I think Michigan loses big this week and goes to 5-4.
Yeesh.
Well,
with a couple big games left. I mean, they still got to play Indiana and Ohio State.
And don't forget, they got to go on the road to Memorial Stadium, The Rock, Indiana University.
Yeah, I think that's one that Indiana might drop.
Could.
We shall see.
Duke loves Indiana. But
Duke's a closet Indiana fan.
Oh, yeah, he loves Indiana. Being in Fort Wayne, he's got the striped pants and everything for when he goes to basketball games.
I can picture it now.
Throughout history, throughout my lifetime, I may or may not have owned a pair of candy striped pants.
Of course you did.
May or may not. Of course
you did.
Dude, did you ever meet Bobby Knight?
One time.
All right, so I won't go off topic here, but long story short, Bobby Knight's grandma went to school with Bobby Knight in Orville. They were good friends growing up.
That's
I was like, oh, I'm like, shit, I'd love to meet Bobby Knight, but unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But
Yeah.
I thought that was cool as hell. She told me that
I
they're
briefly
really good friends.
interacted with him. I forget why he was at Ohio. Obviously, Ohio. He was here for something, and I was at the same thing. And I mean, I didn't like talk to him, but I just briefly like interacted in passing.
Yeah.
I think that might be a year ago today, boys.
Today?
Yeah, I'm
Really?
pretty sure.
Oh wow.
Hold on, let me fact check this.
Yeah, fact check him while I bring up the next game because Duke's going to have a lot to say about this one. The next big game, 3:30 on ABC.
The biggest cocktail party in the world.
The world's largest cocktail party. The Georgia Bulldogs facing off with Andre Duke's Florida Gators. Georgia favored by 14.5. It's not going to be played. This is the last time it'll be played in Jacksonville for 2 years. Because I believe it goes to Atlanta next year and then Tampa the year after, which is just stupid. Like, do a home and home if you're going to do that. Like, I like it in Jacksonville. It's a fabulous venue, fabulous, great time. I think it's awesome. It's one of the neutral site games I actually like. Like, I've never been to the Red River Shootout, so I'm sure that one's fun too. But like the world's largest cocktail party is second to none. So anybody going, have a great time, stay safe. But the Georgia Bulldogs, they're susceptible to some things here. They might. I don't want to give Duke too much of an ego here, but the Georgia Bulldogs might drop this one. Billy G5, he might save his job this week.
No, like I've said, all year with with Florida, they're going to beat somebody they're not supposed to.
Yeah,
and that's why I
disagreed with you on that, and I still disagree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. But
6-6,
6-6. If 6-6 includes a win over Georgia, I think that might save his job. I've been told by people I know down there that 7-5 is the record he needs to get to keep his job. But when I brought up to them, because I said 7-5, you're asking a lot there. I said, what if 6-6, but he beats Florida State and Georgia, who are two rivals? And they said, well, nobody thinks he's going to beat Georgia. So if he gets to 6-6 with a win over Georgia, that might be enough.
He may not beat Georgia, but I think there's another team on this schedule that I'm not going to say publicly because I know some things.
You don't know shit.
Yeah, dude, come on.
You gotta say it. Here, let me pull up their schedule. I'll guess it.
I
think Georgia. So this game goes one of two ways, and I actually just watched the replay. Did you guys? So in 2007.
No,
2007 is when Georgia beat Florida, right?
Yeah.
Georgia beat.
it
was 2007. I don't. Yeah, get there. 2007, Georgia beat Florida, and I think it was the opening touchdown that Georgia scored. The entire bench cleared and went and celebrated.
That. Yep.
Oh, buddy, you cannot even begin to understand how pissed off Urban Meyer was about that. And then the following year, they are up 49-10 with like 45 seconds left, and he calls 3 timeouts in a row.
In the last minute?
Yeah, he calls 3 timeouts in a row just to give a big
I was just about to say a big fuck you.
That was one of my favorite things ever, was when Urban did that. Like the announcers were hilarious watching it back. Like, well, yeah, they're gonna run it here, and then that should be the last snap. And Florida took a timeout here.
Carter, did you go to that game?
I wasn't at that one. No, that's not one of the ones I went to. Unfortunately, I would have loved to. But it was that just gives you insight into who Urban Meyer is as a person. Like the level of petty within that man, like he doesn't forget. And when you do something like that, he is going to make it like he could have lost every game in 2008, which they had a great team, so that wasn't going to happen. But he could have lost every game, and he would have beat Georgia and found a way to really pin it on them and like put it to them. And that's why last year he played Michigan. There was a reason he needed to go hang 62 on them.
No,
But he wanted to emphasize, like, hey, fuck you guys. Like, that's just the level of petty that he is. One of the greatest games I've ever seen. So
the 2018 Michigan game.
Yeah. Oh, it was incredible.
I was at that game too. I was with my dad.
I was
nobody was
I was
standing.
not there.
Nobody was sitting. Everybody
reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so looking at Florida's schedule, so this game, just to give you my quick thoughts on it, Florida is performing at a little bit better level than I expected. They played some games that are like the close loss to Tennessee was unexpected. I thought they were going to get blown out. Other than that, they've played pretty much as expected, though. Losing by 28 to Kentucky was a bit weird, especially at home. But I think this game matches up.
You
decent.
mean winning?
Yeah, winning. Oh, yeah, they won. I don't know why I thought they lost that game. Yeah, winning by 28 was unexpected. That was a big win for them. Kentucky, I don't know what to make of Kentucky. Trust me, I've watched Kentucky football long enough. And then they go to the swamp and get killed every time. But I think Georgia has good defense, not great. This is not a Georgia defense of years past. Like everybody just sees the G on the helmet and thinks it's one of the best defenses in the country. Right. It's not. And then they have serious issues on offense. But I could see this game going one of two ways. I think either Florida wins a close game or Georgia wins by like 30.
Yeah. And we've talked about that. And then another thing that hasn't got much run, I know this is a little off topic, but another thing that hasn't got much run has been the Quinn Ewers on the struggle bus.
Yeah.
So you're giving us a hint at who you think is going to lose to Florida that isn't expected, huh?
Yes.
I was going to guess you were talking about Texas, but it's at Texas, man. I doubt it.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless all the fans get pissed off and start throwing beer cans again.
And that Texas is something that is going to be interesting going forward, because I think if Quinn Ewers continues to struggle, it is Arch Manning time. Yeah. Sark is not going to hesitate to pull that trigger on the Arch thing. And I said this like 3 weeks ago whenever they went back to Quinn Ewers, I said Texas has an Arch Manning problem. He is, because when they went to
him once.
Yeah, when they went to him in the Georgia game, if he had gave him a spark, Quinn Ewers wouldn't be the starter.
Yep.
Yeah, but he didn't. So I think Quinn gets right. I think Quinn gets right, and I think he's fine. I think he just needed some time back from injury.
I hope so, but
yeah. Otherwise, it will be a problem. That's for sure. That'll be an interesting dynamic. But I mean, this 4-game stretch for Florida. My God, poor guys. You got Georgia at Texas, LSU at home, Ole Miss at home. Now, Ole Miss is not as good as I thought. LSU is not as good as I thought. So they might be able to sneak out a win or two there.
Hey, you never know. I told you he's going to beat somebody that he's not supposed to.
But that's another fun one this weekend. I'll be watching that one pretty closely. Probably one of the few ones I watch at 3:30. I'll probably have that and Oregon Michigan for the first half until Michigan's down by 30. And then let's see what else. Indiana, Michigan State. I don't think there's much to that one, although it's at Michigan State, and I could see Indiana. I mean, I know they look good. They're going to struggle against somebody eventually, and it's not going to be somebody you expect.
Yeah.
If they coach, I'd be worried if I was an Indiana fan, which there's like 4 of them in the world. But I'd be real worried if I coasted into the Ohio State game. If I had never really been tested and my first real test is going to be at Ohio State, that doesn't make me feel confident.
Well, the only thing I would say is that, well, you just looked and seen what Nebraska did to them, and Ohio State, as far as right now, has no left tackle. Who knows?
And here we go. Hashtag Duke loves the transitive property. This is once again, he keeps saying how much he hates it, and then he brings it up every fucking show.
Only with Indiana. Only with
I
Indiana.
know, because it suits your cause. But like I said, Indiana fan, I get it.
I think Indiana has a puncher's chance against Ohio State.
I wouldn't sit here and tell you they don't have a shot. I think that could be a really good game.
Because if you let them hang around, good luck.
Yep. Because Indiana always plays Ohio State tough, no matter what, at Ohio State or at Indiana. And I've always thought Indiana is a sneaky good team. I mean, that's their Super Bowl. You know, they're going up against Ohio State. I think they're going to give Ohio State a really big run for their money coming in a couple of weeks.
Could you imagine that? You know, it's kind of wild. A guy from the Sun Belt, you know, relatively a little bit unknown outside of the, you know, little JMU. He brings in 12 Sun Belt players, completely overturns the roster, and turns Indiana into, like, let's just say a 10-2 or 11-1.
They're the story of the year. I mean, they're the program of the year. I mean, that's my vote.
Outside of Army Navy,
I think they're a bigger story than Army and Navy.
And you know, the big thing that I'm tired of hearing is that, well, who did they beat? Well, who the fuck is Penn State beat?
No shit.
A lot of the big, you know, I'm out on the Joe Klatz of the world saying, you know, the vaunted Big Ten. Okay, so you beat up on Northwestern, you beat Michigan State, you beat fucking Wisconsin, Minnesota. Do any of these teams throw a forward pass? That's what I'm tired of hearing. Is, well, they Illinois. Okay, Bielema runs the ball 45 times a game.
Yeah, I'm with
Iowa. Do any of these teams score over 30 points outside of Ohio State? Do anybody in the
Indiana,
Big Ten score over?
But
Indiana, exactly.
Yeah. Oregon. But I forget what Penn State averages, but Penn State averages close to 30 or above 30. But I have that. We'll get into that. Actually, I can tell you they average 33.3. We'll get into that in a minute.
But you see where I'm going with this, because they want to say, well, the ACC sucks. A lot of Big Ten people want to say the ACC sucks, but okay,
the ACC does suck.
The ACC might suck, but does the Big Ten suck? The bottom part of the Big Ten, UCLA.
Well, yeah, I think the bottom part's bad, but there's 4 left in the Big Ten right now. There's 2 in the ACC.
Yeah.
I'd argue 3, maybe.
I don't know who the third is, but yeah.
Either Pitt or SMU, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But you can understand that. But anyways, Indiana has been a good story. I think eventually, here's the thing I'll tell you. 10-2 Indiana doesn't get in the playoffs.
And it depends on who's it up against. That's my thing.
No, 10-2 they don't get in. 11-2 they might, but 11-2 means they made the Big Ten title game.
Right.
But 10-2 with no Big Ten title game, they're not in. I don't care if they lost to.
They'll put Notre Dame in. They'll put Notre Dame.
Yeah, they'll put Notre Dame in over them. They'll put so many other people, because that means they lost to Ohio State and Michigan State, somebody, right? But jumping into the night games before we get into Ohio State, real quick here. Texas A&M, South Carolina. Is this a upset alert?
I mean, it's going to be rocking at South Carolina. There is no doubt it ain't going to be rocking there. Where I see the big issue with this game is that if Texas A&M comes out flat, it's going to be a problem. South Carolina is one of those teams that likes to jump on you early.
Yeah.
And take it to you right away. So we shall see what that.
I think I mean South Carolina I think matches up well. The only bad news is I think Texas A&M, the Wigman's not the guy, so they're gonna play I forget his name, the other guy.
The Reed kid.
Yeah. So that one's interesting. A&M's favored by 3. I think that's interesting. And then the only other game I'm really paying attention to is Louisville and Clemson. I think Clemson is the better team, but I think if there's an opportunity for a letdown on Clemson's schedule right now, I think it's this week. I think Louisville can give them some trouble, and I think Louisville might just pull off one of their kind of patented upsets this week.
Yeah, we'll see. The thing that makes me kind of intrigued by this is that Clemson's a 10-point favorite. I figured they would have been more, just based upon Klubnik has been relatively hot, but Louisville can score the football. They just can't stop anybody, i.e. the Miami game. So
yeah, absolutely.
And I just. If it turns into a shootout, I would kind of like Louisville. But if it's, a field position game, I'd take Clemson. But I think Clemson's up front, their front 7 is one of the best in the nation. Their defensive line, their linebackers, the freshman linebacker that's like 3rd in tackles on the team, Sammy Brown.
Mm-hmm.
That was somebody that we talked about before the season. That was one of the guys that stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's came in and played a lot of snaps for the defense as a true freshman. So it's just
we'll break down a couple other games worth talking about at night. We'll break those down probably Saturday when we do our show, maybe after the noon games or whenever we do it. Before the 7:00 games, there's Kentucky, Tennessee, which is interesting. Pittsburgh, SMU, and then there's a couple others in there. But I do want to get into kind of the game of the week, maybe the game of the year or the second game of the year. Ohio State, Penn State coming up, big noon kickoff. You got a nice little bright and early noon kick for one of the biggest games of the year, which I absolutely hate.
Yes,
but it's like do 3:30 at least. Just I know why they do it this way. And as an Ohio State, like if you're an Ohio State fan, thank God it's not at 7:30.
Yeah,
like,
it's always
at night is death wish.
Yeah.
So, but looking at this game, obviously coming into the game. There is 2 main things that have been talked about. Ohio State fans are not too good. They feel after a loss to Oregon, a bye week, and then what you would have thought was a loss to Nebraska, the way fans are reacting, they are ready to fire anyone and everyone in Columbus, Ohio right now. And so the number one thing is obviously the offensive line play. And obviously losing Josh Simmons was a big loss. That was a left tackle that was playing at a all conference at least level, maybe all American level. And they had Zen Mikowski go out there last week. And I'll be honest with you, he didn't look good. However, they didn't help him at all. They didn't put him in a position to succeed. They didn't game plan for anything that Nebraska did to challenge the new left tackle, right? So I put it all on Zen. I think there was a scheme problem with that. Now, he's no longer going to be the left tackle from what I've heard. I believe Donovan Jackson is sliding from left guard to left tackle, who Donovan Jackson was the best lineman on the team by far. Mm-hmm. And they're going to put, what is it? Christian Hensman, or what's it?
Carson Hensman.
That's it. My God, he's my son's name. But Carson Hensman in at left guard, who hasn't played much this year. He played a lot last year. He got hand, foot, and mouth disease, which is like something babies get.
You get a daycare.
That. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I had some questions on that.
Like,
what are you doing? What are you doing, man?
What are you doing, man?
But anyways, he gets hand, foot, and mouth, and we haven't heard of him since. And now he's going to be, I believe, starting at left guard, which I don't hate that move. But there's a lot of question marks right now on that offensive line. The offensive line has played okay. They looked pretty good early in the year. I thought they looked fine against Oregon. Like I didn't think they struggled against Oregon at all. Obviously, once they lost Simmons, it was a little different. And Zen came in, and I thought he did all right. And then last week, obviously, they couldn't run the ball. I will say at Zen Mikowski twice and averaged 11 yards a carry. So I don't know if Zen was really the issue in that run game. I think it was more of a scheme thing and a game plan thing, which goes back to what Richie brought up earlier about if maybe they were just looking ahead at Penn State. I wonder if they spent the bye week kind of game planning for Penn State, assumed they could just game plan for Nebraska during the regular game week like they would end the game. And maybe it caught up to them. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I've heard it vocally from the fan base in Columbus. They are ready to run Justin Frye out of town. And I understand the offensive line play has been subpar at times under him, but last year the offensive line was pretty good. I don't know if anybody really realized that because Kyle McCord made them look a lot worse than they were.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to talk about how he's been awful. And I'm like, the product on the field hasn't been bad. You're just the thing, and this is my soapbox, and I get it from probably my brother and just being around recruiting and around college football so much is, and I can't say this loud enough for everybody. I do not give two fucks about offensive line recruiting. I don't care.
Yeah. It's not,
and there aren't many coaches in America that do. Because take a look at all the 5-star offensive linemen that come out every year. There's not many. And look at how many of them actually become elite offensive linemen in college football. Not many. Not many. Yep. Paris Johnson's the only one I know at Ohio State that was a 5-star. Outside
That's
of like
Orlando Pace.
Pace or something back in the day. But like you look at Joe Thomas, Joe Alt, like some of these top 5 offensive linemen in the NFL draft, 3 stars across the board. 3 stars that developed.
Oh, it's to me, it just comes down to pure development. And the people that get all caught up in the stars, it's unbelievable because you have, the David Sanders. Who knows if we'll even know who that kid is in 5 years?
Yeah.
But unless he's some Orlando Pace type, like, the one of the ones that sticks out is Jordan Seaton. But I mean, he's starting as a freshman at Colorado right now. So, will the O-line recruiting pan out? I believe water always finds its level, and I don't think the big name misses are necessarily a bad thing. Frye has gone out there, and I think, the developing of, Paris Johnson, nothing is a sure thing when it comes to the offensive line. And you have a lot of issues because, sometimes you can go out and recruit a kid and, you think he's going to be great, and you stick him in there against a Division I defensive line, and the kid gets violated and his confidence is down. And, I just give me a bunch of hard-nosed, hard-working 3-star guys.
Yeah, I'll take 3 stars over 5 stars. Like, didn't Zach even say like some of those 5-star offensive lineman recruits, they're divas?
Oh yeah, it's just
I'd rather have a guy that's a 3-star who's going to work his tail off day in day out, get developed, and become elite. Become his junior, senior year, versus somebody that's going to be like, oh shit, man, like,
Yeah.
That's how I think. That's what I know, how I feel.
And the other thing that goes into it is evaluating high school offensive linemen is impossible.
Oh,
like you can't do it. Like it's one of the most impossible things to do. And you're asking these guys to go out and scout and look at these offensive linemen, and if they're a decent offensive lineman, they're way better than every person they're going against for the most part. And it's just so hard to trust high school evaluation. And so development's huge. And the other thing is a lot of people give Justin Frye a lot of flack for development, saying he hasn't developed an offensive lineman, all this, whatever. Okay. And then they say he can't recruit. And I had somebody get in an argument with me on Twitter or something like that. And he's like, our second best, or he said our best offensive lineman was a transfer from San Diego State.
And nobody knew who Josh Simmons was when they got him out of the portal.
And I said, first of all, Donovan Jackson never went to San Diego State. So at least get your facts right. He's not the best offensive lineman. I said, second of all, so Justin Frye identified talent in the portal, got him in here, and he was one of the best offensive linemen on the team. And somehow that's a knock on him because he identified a kid that was talented out of San Diego State.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, from San Diego State, people. This is not a top-tier program.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how that's a knock. Like, good for him. He went out and found a really talented kid.
Yeah. I mean, they're playing right now. They're getting their shit pushed in by Boise State right now, 21-0. Yeah. But, I mean, going out there and seeing that eye, having that eye to see, to get that offensive tackle out there to bring to Ohio State and to develop him and make him elite. Hats off to Justin Frye for that, man. I mean,
Ohio State fans expect you to recruit him straight out of high school and not have to go get somebody from San Diego. It's like,
come
all
on.
Right, you can't be happy. There's no pleasing you. He went out and found a kid that's good. All right. But outside of that, I mean, when you look at this game, I really think this game is going to be an excellent game. I mean, you can look at it. Drew Aller, I believe, is going to play, which is huge. Because the other, I think, gives Ohio State more of a problem than Drew Aller does, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's, I think it's going to be a mixture. You're going to see both at quarterback, the backup and Aller. Looking at the defensive numbers, Ohio State beats Penn State in every category, but I wonder, the big thing that I would wonder would be if you take out the three numbers is Marshall, Western Michigan, and Akron. If you take those three games out of there, where does it rank at, or where do those numbers set at against just Big Ten competition? Is what I wonder.
So when you look at this game, and this is what I think you brought it up, and I think this is what's really interesting is both these teams kind of stack up perfectly against each other.
Yeah. I'd say it's a pretty
scoring
team.
Yeah, scoring wise, Ohio State is the 11th best offense in scoring. Ohio State 4th best scoring defense, Penn State 8th. Total offense, Ohio State 9th, Penn State 13th. Total defense, Ohio State 2nd, Penn State 4th. Rushing offense, Ohio State 35th after that Nebraska game really knocked them down. Penn State 28th. Rushing defense, Ohio State 6th best, Penn State 8th. Passing offense, Ohio State 22nd, Penn State 28th. Passing defense, Ohio State 8th, Penn State 19th. Ohio State struggles on third down offensively, 43.9%, 38th in the country. Penn State's tied for 7th at 50%. Now in defense, Ohio State's 20th, 32% efficiency. Penn State's 26th, 32.6. Like, it's not even that they're much different. They line up really nicely. And when you look at it, like, you compare Penn State's passing offense to Ohio State's passing defense. Ohio State's a much better pass defense than they are a pass offense. Look at it the other way, Ohio State's not as good as Penn State. So it matches up so perfectly. And so in games like that, they don't turn the ball over. They're both tied for 47th in the country in turnover margin. Penn State doesn't get pressure on the quarterback, 64th in the country in sacks per game. Ohio State 21st. Time of possession, Ohio State doesn't hold the ball, 62nd, 28th. So like the way it matches up is crazy. And so you look at that, and for me, it's when it's that close, they're that even across the board, comes down to two things. Obviously, turnovers, which we already talked about, and then it comes down to talent. And Ohio State's just a more talented roster across the board. You look at freaks on the field, right? Ohio State has freaks at every position. They have a bunch of freaks at wide receiver. They have 2 freaks at running back. They have a bunch of freaks in the secondary. They got a couple freaks on the defensive line. Penn State has Abdul Carter, who's a freak. They have Singletary, who's a freak at running back. They don't really have any freak at wide receiver. Their wide receiver is decent. God, it's escaping me, Hank. But anyways, they don't have depth there. And so the freaks show out, right, in big games. That's what you look at. And then you compare coaching staffs, and the knock on both these head coaches is the same. Yep. They can't win big games. So one of them's going to have to. James Franklin tried to James Franklin it up against USC. He just faced a better a better guy at matching it up in Lincoln Riley. So I think Ryan Day is a better coach than James Franklin. I think Ohio State has better players than Penn State. Ultimately, if this was just a straight toss-up and the talent was equal, I would give the edge to Penn State because it's a home game. But I think the talent overcomes that. So I think you're going to be playing a pissed-off team in Ohio State.
I'd agree with that. I think it all ultimately comes down to the trenches and who can force the turnovers.
Yeah.
How that adjustment is going to be for Donovan Jackson on the left side, on the weak side.
Yeah. And the thing is
breathing down his neck.
Yeah, that's going to be the matchup that maybe decides the game, because you're going to be having Penn State's probably best defensive player in Abdul Carter going up against a really good offensive lineman, but he's a guard playing tackle. Like he hasn't played much tackle. Now, I think he's fully capable. I think he's an excellent athlete. I think he can do it. But this is going to be his first start at tackle. And so it's going to be interesting. And I think Chip Kelly and Ryan Day have to game plan for that. And I think they're smart enough. They know they have to. So they have to help out with some tight ends. And the knock on G. Scott and the tight ends at Ohio State are that they aren't the best in the blocking game. G. Scott's looked really good in the throw game, and he's been a much improved tight end this year. But you're going to have to get some help with tight ends and running backs in that pass pro. And you're going to have to – I think Donovan Jackson will be fine in the run game because he's used to that. I think that's not going to be a huge issue. I think the pass pro is where you'll see Abdul Carter's athleticism maybe give him some issues. Yeah. On the flip side, Penn State's offensive line is decent. They aren't running the ball at an extremely high clip. They aren't giving up sacks at an extremely high clip either, so they're a decent offensive line. And Ohio State's defensive line has been good, not great. So, it's going to come down to the trenches and just who makes mistakes. You can't have 85 yards of penalties. You can't have turnovers. You can't have Igbinosun getting holding calls every 2 plays to drive him down the field. And if I'm Ohio State, I'm putting IGB on Julian Fleming and telling him, don't even touch him.
Yeah, because he ain't going to catch it.
Exactly. Don't even touch him.
I guess my final takeaway from this game is I think how well Ohio State runs the football is going to be how the game goes, because if they cannot run the football, it's going to be a long day.
I think that's definitely possible. They definitely want to come out and establish the run. And I think part of what Urban Meyer said this week, which is funny that he would come out and say it, because who would have thought Urban Meyer wants to run the quarterback 20 times a game? But I do think they're going to have to utilize Will Howard in the run game more than they have all year. And I think that's just pure numbers, and especially with an O-line that's kind of a hodgepodge. You're putting together something that wasn't supposed to be your starting 5, and you're going to have to help them out. One of the ways you help out an offensive line like that is by getting the numbers in your advantage. And the easiest way to do that is to run the ball with the quarterback, because now that's an extra half. And so I mean, as much as I think that the Urban Meyer offense of JT Barrett running it 22 times a game is antiquated and outdated and not the way to do things. And I've talked about it a lot with Notre Dame because Riley Leonard averages like 15 carries a game. And I think that's not a sustainable way to play offense in college football anymore. I think this game is definitely one where you have to do that. You're going to have to break in this offensive line. You're going to have, and if it's just for one game, that's fine. Get your offensive line moving forward. Get them moving the right direction. Get them some confidence, and then let the backs that you have, who are two of the best backs in America, mind you, but get the early in the game. I would say get Will Howard 8 carries in the first half, and let them establish some momentum. Let them establish some rhythm, and then go back to your normal run game. I mean, you're going to have to scheme it up a little and still do things, but and let them develop and get that confidence as a unit. And then you don't have to pass it. But I do think if Ohio State's going to win this game, you're going to see Will Howard throw it 25 to 30 times.
Right.
Yeah.
I see him maybe carrying it 10 times, running the ball. That's it. Like you said, Carter, just trying to get that little bit of X factor in there for him and try to get the offensive line gel, let the nerves calm down there because they're making big changes at left tackle. That's what I see happening to Carter and Duke.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens tomorrow in about less than 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean we got 15 hours till kickoff.
15 hours, yeah, I can do the math real quick.
Yeah, but I think what I think and it'll be interesting to see. I think you'll get an idea. If Ohio State wins the toss, you'll get an idea of how Ryan Day is going to call the game with what the decision is on that opening coin toss.
Right.
Because I think if I'm Ryan Day is notorious for playing things safe and kind of doing the right thing if you're the better team, right? And kind of not always being as aggressive at times. If I'm Ryan Day going into Happy Valley, if I win the toss, I'm taking the ball.
I'm taking the ball down on the fronts.
Yeah, and first play, I'm doing play action or something, and I'm trying to get Jeremiah Smith on a deep route or something to just take the wind out of Penn State's sails early. And I'm driving the ball down the field, or I'm just lining up and I'm running the ball at them, and I'm going to make them stop me, and I'm going to shove it down their throats, and I'm going to set the tone early in the game. On that first drive, score a touchdown. Ohio State wins the game if that happens.
I would agree with that.
Well, that was the formula. That was the formula in Oregon, and we've seen how that turned out.
Different teams. Oregon's a much better team than Penn State.
So, I don't know. This is my final thought on it. I feel like Ryan Day's got to quiet a lot of things in this game, and I hope his play calling, well, not his play calling, but hopefully nobody clams up in this game, whether it's Jim Knowles or Chip Kelly. A lot of the biggest,
I agree.
A lot of it comes down to, I think, Jim Knowles, and you're making $2.5 million, man, and these are the games. We don't pay you to, like we've said this, we don't pay you to stop Purdue. We don't pay you to stop Western Michigan. We pay you to stop Penn State, and we pay you to stop Michigan, and we pay you to stop people that are in the playoffs. So with that being said, it's an unpopular opinion. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but this is the gravity. This is the reality of the situation. If you don't get pressure on the quarterback, and it looks like a replay of Nebraska or Oregon where there's no pressure whatsoever, either Larry or Jim's got to go. That's just my opinion.
And I think the good thing is, especially Drew Aller, not that Drew Aller's some bum who can't run. The difference between Dylan Gabriel and Fat Mahomes, Dylan Raiola, is those guys frequently legs a lot more than Drew Aller does. Right. So if they played it safe because they were afraid to get after them and open up running lanes, which they still opened up running lanes and let them scramble and move the pocket and do everything, you don't have to worry about that with Drew Aller as much. And the X factor, 3 years in a row, man, that X factor could be JTT.
So, and I think he's gonna have a good game tomorrow. I think he's gonna be pissed off because James Franklin, his name in the press conference, and you should remember his name after he went off on him 2 years ago in Happy Valley. So
also his name wouldn't be Fat Patrick Mahomes; it would be Fatrick Mahomes.
No, I just said Fat Mahomes.
Right? Patrick, get it. But outside of that, I don't have anything else.
No, I think that's
everything else.
I appreciate everybody tuning in. Like Duke said earlier, like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on Twitter, come over to YouTube. Get in the comments. We like to interact today. We had a lot to go over, so I didn't get to interact as much, but we'll be back. I at least myself, Duke, maybe Richie, if you can. We'll be back sometime tomorrow to kind of break down what's going on, maybe break down some of these night games we didn't get to today. But go out there, like and subscribe, and tune in, man. We're having fun doing this. Oh, and real quick, we got 2 live shows coming up. First one is going to be next Saturday, November 9th at Cigar 30. Is that right, Richie?
Yes. Cigar
30 in Canton, Ohio. That's going to be kind of our test run, first live show. And then again, December 7th for Championship Saturday at Cigar. I think it's Cigarro Lounge in Hubbard, Ohio. We'll nail down the time for Saturday, but I believe both will be at noon, just to get it done and get in, or maybe we'll see what time it might be, just depending. But it'll be around then. So come hang out, have a cigar, hang out with us. Tune in definitely for the live shows. That way we can get feedback, see what we need to improve on. And then December 7th, noon at Cigarro Lounge in Hubbard, Ohio. Come out with us. We're going to have cigars. We're going to the whole 9 yards. It'll be fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to next Saturday and December. So I know, Carter, you and I have talked about Cigar 30 Duke. Mm-hmm. You'll like it. It's a very laid-back, chill environment. The owners are great people. It's going to be in the members lounge. It's going to be nice. It's going to be going to be good. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, so come on out. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button to help us out, and then we'll see you Saturday. Everybody have a good night.
Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for watching.